Depression is often viewed as an adult problem, but more and more, children, some as young as 6 or 7, are showing signs of deep emotional pain. The image of childhood as a carefree time of joy is being challenged by a harsh and growing reality. Children can and do suffer from depression. But why? What causes this emotional darkness in someone so young? Is it parenting, genetics, society, environment? This episode dives deep into the invisible pain, the hidden struggles, and the real, research-based reasons children may fall into depression. If you're a parent, teacher, or simply someone who cares about a child, this is the video you need to see. Let's unpack the truth. They're just kids. What do they have to be sad about? That's what many people ask when they hear a child is struggling with depression. But depression isn't about how much someone has. It's about how much someone hurts. Childhood is often romanticized as a time of innocence, laughter, and unbroken dreams. But for many children, this picture couldn't be further from reality. They smile on the outside, but inside, they may feel broken, confused, and hopeless. In fact, studies show that nearly 1 in 10 children experiences some form of depression, and the numbers are rising. But why? What pushes a child into depression? The reasons are rarely simple, and they're almost never just one. Let's start with the most common contributors. Genetics and family history. A child's emotional world begins before they're even born. If one or both parents have a history of depression or other mental health disorders, the child's risk increases significantly. This isn't just about DNA. It's also about what the child absorbs: subtle behaviors, moods, energy, and environment. Imagine growing up with a parent who is emotionally unavailable, chronically anxious, or deeply pessimistic. That emotional tone can imprint itself on a child before they even learn how to name it. Chronic stress and high conflict environments. Children are like emotional sponges. They soak in tension, especially when they don't have the tools to process it. A household filled with fighting, yelling, emotional neglect, or abuse can shake a child's sense of safety. Even if the conflict isn't directed at them, children internalize it. They begin to believe, if my world is always this scary or unstable, maybe I'm not safe. Maybe I'm the problem. This internal fear becomes sadness. That sadness becomes despair. Emotional neglect. Sometimes, the most damaging thing isn't what is done, but what isn't. A child who lacks emotional attunement, who is rarely hugged, listened to, validated, or made to feel important, can begin to feel invisible. They may appear fine on the surface, even high-achieving, but inside, they feel hollow. A child doesn't need perfect parenting, but they do need to be seen. Neglect, even the unintentional kind, can seed depression early. Bullying and peer rejection. Childhood is where our social identities begin to form. But when a child is bullied, rejected, or isolated, their self-worth takes a hit. Whether it's name-calling, exclusion, physical aggression, or subtle emotional manipulation, these experiences can shape a child's self-concept. They start to believe they're not good enough, that they don't belong. When this pain goes unaddressed, it grows, and eventually, it takes the shape of depression. Academic pressure and perfectionism. School is supposed to be a place of growth, but for many children, it becomes a battlefield. High expectations, comparison with peers, pressure to perform, fear of failure. These forces create a toxic cocktail of anxiety and hopelessness. When a child feels like nothing they do is enough, they may stop trying altogether. Perfectionism isn't excellence. It's a fear of being unworthy unless everything is flawless. And it can drive a child into silence, shame, and eventually, depression. Loss or grief. Children experience grief deeply, but often silently. The death of a loved one, a parent's divorce, the loss of a pet, or even a move to a new school can feel devastating. Because they lack the emotional vocabulary, they may not express their grief directly. Instead, they may become withdrawn, or angry, or numb. Over time, unprocessed grief becomes lingering sadness, and sadness left unhealed can become depression. Trauma and abuse. One of the strongest predictors of childhood depression is trauma. Physical, emotional, or sexual abuse leaves deep scars, many of which are invisible. Even one-time traumatic events, like witnessing violence or surviving an accident, can fundamentally alter a child's worldview. They begin to see life as unpredictable, people as dangerous, themselves as broken. Without proper healing, these beliefs harden into depression. Identity struggles and marginalization. Children who feel different due to race, culture, disability, sexuality, or gender identity often face additional emotional hurdles. If their identity is invalidated, mocked, or shamed, especially by family, teachers, or peers, it can lead to internalized pain. They begin to hide who they are, or worse, hate who they are. This disconnect from self is deeply painful and can be a direct path to depression. Digital overload and social media. Today's children are growing up in a digital world, and it's affecting their mental health. Constant exposure to curated lives on social media, cyberbullying, overstimulation, and addictive content consumption can erode a child's self-esteem. They compare themselves to filtered illusions. They feel inadequate, lonely, addicted, anxious. And when they turn to their screens to escape, they become even more isolated, fueling the cycle of depression. Unmet emotional needs. Every child has 3 core emotional needs: to feel loved, to feel safe, to feel valuable. When any of these needs go unmet, repeatedly, a child may begin to question their worth. Sometimes, a parent is physically present but emotionally absent. Sometimes, the child is the strong one who always copes alone. When these patterns persist, the child begins to believe, "My needs don't matter. Maybe I don't matter." That belief is the heartbeat of depression. Lack of supportive relationships. Children need more than food and shelter. They need connection, a warm teacher, a present parent, a kind friend. These relationships act as emotional lifelines. Without them, the world feels colder. The child may feel like no one gets them, that no one would notice if they disappeared. Loneliness, especially when chronic, is one of the biggest drivers of depression in young people. Low self-esteem and internal shame. Not all pain is visible. Some children carry deep shame, often from years of criticism, comparison, or being made to feel less than. They may think, I'm stupid. I ruin everything. No one will ever love me. Shame is like a slow poison. It doesn't just make them feel bad, it makes them feel unworthy of feeling better. This is a core wound of childhood depression. Chemical imbalances and brain development. Lastly, it's important to remember that depression isn't always caused by environment alone. Sometimes, the brain itself plays a role. Imbalances in neurotransmitters like serotonin or dopamine can affect mood regulation, just as insulin affects blood sugar in diabetes. In some cases, medical intervention is necessary. But even here, healing begins with understanding. A child needs to know, you're not broken, you're not bad, you're not alone. So how can we help? If we know what leads a child into depression, we can begin to guide them out. It won't happen overnight, and it won't be easy. But every child deserves hope. Here are 13 compassionate, practical ways we can support a child struggling with depression. Listen without judgment. Children often speak in signals, not words. Pay attention. When they open up, don't interrupt, don't correct, just listen. Sometimes, being heard is the first step to being healed. Validate their emotions. Saying, you'll be fine or it's not that bad, shuts a child down. Instead, say, that sounds really hard. I'm so sorry you're feeling this way. I'm here. Validation builds bridges. Dismissal builds walls. Create safety and predictability. A chaotic environment fuels anxiety and depression. Children thrive in structure, routine, predictability. Make home a safe, calm space. Not perfect, just safe. Get professional help early. Therapy isn't just for adults. Children can benefit tremendously from talking to a trained professional. Early intervention prevents deep suffering later. Be present. Emotionally. It's not enough to be in the same room. Be emotionally available. Put the phone down. Make eye contact. Ask how they're feeling and mean it. Presence heals. Reduce pressure and emphasize effort. Celebrate progress, not just perfection. Let them know it's okay to fail. It's okay to try again. Your love isn't tied to their grades or performance. Teach emotional vocabulary. Children can't express what they can't name. Teach them words like sad, anxious, overwhelmed, lonely. The more they can name, the less power those feelings hold. Encourage movement and play. Physical activity boosts mood naturally. Play, laughter, sunshine. These aren't luxuries, they're medicine. Create space for joy, even in small doses. Limit screen time compassionately. Don't just take the device away. Offer connection in its place. Help them explore art, music, nature, or hobbies that bring real joy, not just digital distraction. Model healthy emotional habits. Children watch more than they listen. If you avoid emotions, they will too. If you face emotions with courage and compassion, they'll follow. Don't rush their healing. You can't fix depression with a single pep talk. Be patient. Healing is a process, not a deadline. Watch for warning signs: withdrawal, changes in eating, sleeping, loss of interest, irritability, talk of death. These are red flags. Don't ignore them. Act with urgency and love. Remind them they are not alone. The most powerful words a child can hear: I see you. I believe in you. You matter. Say them often. Say them sincerely. Say them until they believe it themselves. Some children cry out for help with tears. Others do it with silence. Some show it through anger. Others through withdrawal. But behind every behavior, there's a message. And behind every child who seems difficult, lazy, or moody, there may be a child who's hurting deeply. Childhood depression isn't always visible. It hides behind smiles, jokes, and achievements. It hides in plain sight. And the tragedy is, not all children know how to say, I'm not okay. That's why your awareness matters. Whether you're a parent, a sibling, a teacher, a neighbor, or just someone who cares, your presence can change the trajectory of a child's life. Don't wait for the perfect words. Don't wait for the right moment. Just show up. Say, I see you. I believe you. I'm here. And you are not alone. Let's not be part of the silence. Let's be part of the solution. If this video helped you understand even a little more about what children are carrying, please take a moment to like the video, leave a comment, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more deeply human conversations like this. Together, we can break generational cycles. We can raise awareness. And most importantly, we can raise children who know their worth. There is no such thing as a flawless parent, or a perfect teacher, or an all-knowing adult. But there is such a thing as a healing presence, a voice that says, you don't have to hide anymore. You're allowed to feel. You matter, even when you're struggling. That voice can be you. In a world that often rushes past children's pain, let's be the generation that stops, kneels down, and listens. Let's replace shame with safety. Let's replace silence with support. Let's replace pressure with presence. Because when a child knows they're seen, when they believe they are worthy, not because they're perfect, but because they're human, that's when healing begins. So before you go, ask yourself this: who in my life might be silently struggling? Reach out. Be the hand that holds, the heart that hears. And if you are carrying pain too, remember this: you don't have to carry it alone. Healing is possible, help is real, and hope is always waiting, even in the darkest night. Stay kind, stay brave, stay aware, and never forget, the way we show up for our children today shapes the world they will live in tomorrow.